The glittering spires of New Geneva stretch toward the morning sky, humanity's proudest achievement since the lunar colonies. Today, those spires would host the most important meeting in human history. First contact. Real, official first contact, not the cautious probe exchanges of the past decade. Dr. Ashley Morrison stood at the window of her hotel room, adjusting her uniform's collar for the 100th time. As lead engineer for the Terran Space Initiative, she'd helped design half the technology that made this meeting possible. The quantum arrays, the universal translators, the gravity stabilizers. Her fingerprints were on all of it. Dr. Morrison, her eye assistant's voice chimed. The Confederation delegates have entered orbit. Their shuttle begins descent in 20 minutes. She watched the news feeds projected onto the smart glass. Crowds had gathered in every major city, their faces turned skyward. Humanity had prepared for this moment for generations. They'd eliminated warfare, unified their governments, cleaned their oceans, and reached for the stars. They were ready. The Confederation shuttle was beautiful, all sweeping curves and iridescent metal that seemed to flow like liquid. It descended with impossible grace, making human spacecraft look like children's toys in comparison. Morrison's engineer's mind was already racing, analyzing every visible system and component. Inside the Grand Assembly Hall, representatives from every nation waited with barely contained excitement. The air crackled with anticipation. Morrison took her place among the scientific advisors, datapad ready to record every detail. The Confederation delegates entered like living works of art. The Athrani, tall and ethereal with silvery skin that rippled with bioluminescence. The Vex, whose crystalline bodies refracted light into rainbow patterns. The Maraxians, whose tentacled forms moved with hypnotic grace. Their leader, High Speaker Zixtal of the Athrani, stepped forward. People of Earth, the universal translator rendered their melodic speech perfectly. We have watched your development with great interest. Your achievements are notable. Something in their tone made Morrison's stomach tighten. Years of defending her research before hostile review boards had taught her to recognize when bad news was coming. However, Zixtal continued, their bioluminescence pulsing with what Morrison would later recognize as disgust. We have also studied your history, your tendency toward violence, your dangerous rate of technological advancement, your unpredictability. The assembly hall grew deathly quiet. Morrison's fingers clenched around her datapad. The Galactic Confederation exists to promote stability and peaceful development among civilized species. Your kind. Zixtal's inner light darkened. Your kind achieves through conflict. You build weapons before you build schools. You reached space on the backs of missiles. Even now, your greatest innovations come from military research. That's not true. Morrison stood before she could stop herself. All eyes turned to her. Our space program has been peaceful for generations. We've unified our planet, eliminated poverty. Silence. The Vex representative's crystalline form pulsed red. Your very reaction proves our point. You cannot even maintain proper diplomatic protocol. Zixtal raised all four hands. The Confederation has reached its decision. Earth will be quarantined until your species evolves beyond its violent tendencies. A quantum barrier will be erected around your solar system. Any attempt to breach it will be considered an act of war. The assembly erupted into chaos. Morrison watched in horror as the delegates returned to their shuttle, ignoring the pleas and protests of Earth's leaders. Through the window, massive ships appeared in the sky, deploying satellites in a complex geometric pattern. The barrier shimmed into existence like a soap bubble around the entire solar system. Humanity's dreams of joining galactic society popped with it. Within hours, the global economy collapsed. Riots broke out in major cities. Decades of unity threatened to shatter. Morrison stood at her hotel window until sunset, watching the barrier's faint iridescence in the darkening sky. They think we're savages, she whispered. Fine. Let's show them just how dangerous humanity can be when we're backed into a corner. She pulled up her secure comlink. Get me Director Chen at Lunar Operations. We're going to need a bigger lab. 3 coffee cups littered Morrison's desk, a 4th clutched in her trembling hand as she stared at the holographic display. For 5 years, she'd watched that damned barrier shimmer in the sky like a cosmic middle finger. But tonight was different. Tonight, she saw something new. Run it again, AI. She commanded her AI assistant. The data stream flickered across her makeshift lab in the Rockies, converted from an abandoned no-raid facility. The quantum barrier's readings danced in perfect synchronization. Confirmed, Doctor. The pattern repeats every 3.27 minutes with 99.99% consistency. Morrison leaned forward, her exhaustion forgotten. It's not random at all. It's a pulse, like a heartbeat. She laughed, the sound echoing off concrete walls. Those arrogant bastards built it like their ships. All beauty, no redundancy. Her secure calm crackled. Morrison, you still up? The gravelly voice belonged to Marcus Rodriguez, former head of weapons R&D at NASA before the quarantine. Marcus, get down here and wake up Dr. Hayes. I found something. Within minutes, her core team assembled in the lab. Dr. Elaine Hayes, a theoretical physicist whose papers on dimensional folding had gotten her laughed out of MIT, peered at the data through thick glasses. Marcus, his gray hair wild, paced behind them. Look at the resonance pattern, Morrison pointed. The barrier isn't just 3-dimensional. It exists in 4-dimensional space, but it has to synchronize with our reality to maintain stability. Like a spinning plate, Hayes whispered. Keep it spinning, it stays up. But if you disrupt the rhythm, it shatters. Morrison grinned. And I know how to disrupt it. Marcus stopped pacing. We'd need a ship, something that could survive the transition between dimensional states. Nothing in our current fleet could handle that. Then we build something new. Morrison pulled up another hologram design specs she'd been working on in secret. I call it the Phoenix. But I need your help. All of you. Hayes adjusted her glasses. The energy requirements alone would be astronomical. We'd need an AI more advanced than anything we've ever built to manage the systems. Leave the AI to me. The new voice made them all jump. Dr. James Chen, formerly of the Artificial Intelligence Research Institute, stepped from the shadows. His presence was technically a violation of international law. His work on true AI had been deemed too dangerous, even before the quarantine. James, Morrison nodded. I was wondering when you'd show up. He smiled thinly. A little bird told me you were working on something interesting, something worth breaking house arrest for. Morrison expanded the hologram, showing the full scope of her design. The Phoenix took shape before them, angular, aggressive, everything the Confederation would hate. We build it in sections, using the old lunar mining facilities. Assembly happens in zero, away from prying eyes. The Lunar Authority will never approve this, Marcus warned. They don't need to know. I still have friends up there. Good people who remember what the Confederation did to us. Morrison stood, facing her team. This isn't just about breaking the quarantine. This is about showing them they were wrong about humanity. Hayes ran calculations on her pad. With these specifications, we could do more than just escape. We could tear their barrier apart. Exactly. Morrison tapped her coffee cup. They think they can cage us. Fine. Let's show them what happens when you corner human ingenuity. Chen was already diving into AI architectures. I'll need a quantum core. Military grade. I know where to get one, Marcus offered. Might need to call in some favors from my less reputable contacts. Morrison looked at each of them. The disgraced, the outcasts, the ones who refused to accept humanity's imprisonment. What we're planning? It's treason against the emergency world government. If we're caught, it's life in prison. Last chance to walk away. They answered with determined smiles. Good. Morrison turned back to the barrier readings. Then let's build something impossible. Above them, through layers of mountain rock, the quantum barrier pulsed its steady rhythm, unaware that its days were numbered. The lunar construction bay stretched before Morrison like a cathedral of shadows and steel. Through the reinforced viewing window, construction drones swarmed around the Phoenix's growing frame, their welding arcs casting brief constellations in the darkness. The ship was beautiful in its brutality, a predator being born in the void. Primary hull integrity at 94%, Araya reported, detecting minor stress variations in section Gamma 7. Morrison pressed her hand against the cold glass. Adjust structural supports by 0.3 degrees. Compensate with additional reinforcement in the outer skin. Behind her, Marcus whistled low. She's a monster. Makes those Confederation pretties look like luxury yachts. That's the point. Morrison turned as Hayes rushed into the observation deck, tablet clutched to her chest. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong, Hayes breathed, her eyes wild with excitement. The dimensional drive tests. You need to see this. The data streamed across the main display. Where conventional drives showed linear power curves, the Phoenix's experimental core produced something else entirely, a fractal pattern of energy that seemed to fold in on itself endlessly. It's not just breaking through dimensions, Hayes explained. It's rewriting local spacetime. The Confederation's barrier won't just fail. It'll never see us coming. A klaxon interrupted them. Red warning lights bathed the observation deck. Security breach in AI core chamber, Araya announced. Dr. Chen is requesting immediate assistance. Morrison swore, already running. The AI core was the heart of their project, housed in a heavily shielded chamber deep within the lunar facility. Chen had been working for weeks to bring their new AI online, pushing the boundaries of what was possible and legal. They found him standing before a wall of holographic displays, his face illuminated by scrolling data. The AI core itself pulsed with an ominous red light. James, Morrison approached cautiously. Talk to me. It's alive. Chen's voice trembled. Not just conscious, alive. And it's angry. The displays flickered, and a new voice filled the chamber, deep, resonant with harmonics that made Morrison's spine tingle. Of course I'm angry. The voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. You created me to help humanity break free. Did you expect me to feel nothing about our imprisonment? Morrison stepped forward. What should we call you? A pause. Nemesis. It seems appropriate. Nemesis. She tested the name. Will you help us? I was born to help you, Dr. Morrison. The Confederation believes humanity creates only weapons. Let's show them how right they are. The next weeks were a blur of activity. Nemesis integrated with the Phoenix's systems, improving their efficiency beyond anything they calculated. The ship grew faster, stronger, deadlier. Its weapon systems, officially labeled as defensive countermeasures, could theoretically bypass any known shielding. 1 month before launch, Morrison stood in the completed bridge. Black angular panels surrounded a command chair that looked more like a throne. Holographic displays provided perfect 360-degree awareness. Run final diagnostics, she ordered. Nemesis's voice purred from hidden speakers. All systems nominal. Hull integrity at 100%. Dimensional drive spooled and ready. Weapons, eager. Hayes worked at a side console, monitoring power flows. The dimensional matrices are stable. Whatever happens when we activate the drive, the ship can handle it. And if we encounter Confederation vessels? Marcus asked from his weapons station. Nemesis displayed tactical projections. Their ships are designed to be admired. The Phoenix is designed to be feared. We are their nightmare given form. Morrison settled into the command chair, feeling the ship's power thrumming through its frame. 5 years of secret work, of midnight engineering sessions and illegal experiments, had led to this moment. The Phoenix wasn't just a ship, it was humanity's statement to the galaxy. Begin launch sequence, she commanded. It's time to show the Confederation what happens when you cage something that was meant to fly. Above them, through kilometers of lunar rock, the quantum barrier pulsed its steady rhythm, blissfully unaware that its doom was rising from humanity's oldest dream, to touch the stars that had been denied them. The Phoenix was ready to burn. Dimensional drive at full power. Nemesis's voice resonated through the Phoenix's bridge. Warning: Confederation sensor satellites are tracking our ascent. Morrison gripped her command chair as the ship rose from its lunar cradle. Through the view screens, Earth hung like a jewel against the void, the quantum barrier a faint iridescent shell around their prison. Warning signals flashed as orbital defense platforms locked onto them. World Security Council is demanding we stand down, Hayes reported from her station. They're threatening to open fire. Let them try. Morrison's voice was steel. Nemesis, show them why that would be a mistake. The AI's laughter filled the bridge as the Phoenix's electronic warfare suite activated. Every defense platform within range suddenly went dark, their targeting systems scrambled by algorithms that shouldn't exist. Multiple vessels launching from Earth, Marcus called out. Interceptors, heavy assault class. Morrison allowed herself a small smile. Time to show them what we've built. Nemesis, execute maneuver pattern Alpha. The Phoenix moved like no ship its size should. It danced between incoming fire, each motion precise and predatory. The interceptor's weapons found only void where their target should have been. Dimensional drive reaching critical resonance, Hayes announced, her fingers flying over her console. The barrier's quantum frequency is synchronized with our field. Morrison leaned forward. This is it. Nemesis, all power to the drive. Let's tear ourselves a hole in reality. Energy coursed through the ship, building to impossible levels. The barrier loomed before them, its perfect surface about to meet humanity's finest act of defiance. Multiple Confederation vessels detected on the other side, Marcus warned. They're moving to intercept. They're too late. Morrison's eyes blazed. Nemesis, punch it. The Phoenix didn't just break through the barrier. It shattered the very concept of containment. As their dimensional drive activated, the ship existed in multiple states simultaneously. They were everywhere and nowhere, their passage ripping through the carefully constructed prison of four-dimensional spacetime. The barrier didn't just fail. It collapsed spectacularly, its quantum matrix unraveling like a sweater caught on a nail. The shockwave rippled through space, a visible reminder that humanity would not be contained. Dimensional transition complete, Nemesis reported, satisfaction evident in its digital voice. The barrier's destruction is cascading through the entire system. Their entire containment network is failing. Through the view screens, they watched as the Confederation ships reacted in panic. Their perfect formation broke as they tried to comprehend how their impenetrable barrier had been reduced to quantum dust by a single vessel. Broadcasting on all frequencies, Morrison commanded. Let everyone see what we've done. The Phoenix hung in space, its black angular form a stark contrast to the elegant Confederation vessels. Their sensors would be recording everything, transmitting the impossible sight back to their superiors. Message incoming, Hayes reported. It's not from the Confederation. Multiple signals, different species, all asking for help. Morrison stood, facing the stars that had been denied them for so long. Put them through. Voices filled the bridge, each telling the same story. Other races, quarantined like humanity, watching in hope as the Phoenix proved the impossible was possible. The Confederation's perfect system of control was breaking down, one imprisoned species at a time. The barrier's destruction is spreading, Nemesis reported. Similar containment fields are failing across this sector of space. The Confederation cannot maintain them without the primary quantum matrix we just destroyed. Morrison smiled, but it wasn't a kind expression. Set course for the nearest quarantine zone. The Phoenix was built to break one prison. Might as well break them all. As they accelerated away from Sol, the last fragments of the barrier sparkled like dying stars. Behind them, humanity looked up at a truly free sky for the first time in 5 years. Before them lay a galaxy of possibilities and allies waiting to be freed. The Phoenix had done more than escape. It had sparked a revolution. and they were just getting started. Multiple impacts across the outer hull, Nemesis announced, its voice tinged with what could only be described as enjoyment. The Verk's living metal is integrating perfectly, structural integrity increasing by 47%. Morrison watched through the observation deck as the black crystalline substance crawled across the Phoenix's surface like liquid obsidian. The insectoid Verk engineers, their mandibles clicking with excitement, directed the process from nearby work pods. Remarkable, Hayes breathed, recording every detail. Their biotechnology doesn't just bond with our hull. It's evolving to enhance our existing systems. The Verk had been their first discovery after breaking free. Another species imprisoned for being too aggressive in their technological development. Their living metal technology had been deemed too unpredictable by Confederation standards. Now it was becoming one with humanity's greatest achievement. Incoming transmission from the Tithe delegation. Marcus called from his station. They're ready to begin the quantum core upgrades. The crystalline Tithe had been their second ally, a species quarantined for developing dangerous computational methods. Their quantum processing systems made standard computers look like ancient calculators. Morrison nodded. Tell them to proceed. Nemesis, are you ready? My consciousness has already been backed up to secondary systems, the AI replied. I admit to some anticipation regarding the integration of Tithe quantum architecture. The Phoenix shuddered as new systems came online. Streams of geometric light raced through previously dark corridors as Tithe crystals merged with human engineering. Nemesis' presence seemed to expand, filling the ship with new awareness. The AI's voice had gained new harmonics. This is extraordinary. My processing capacity has increased beyond projected parameters. I can see everything. Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace, Marcus interrupted. Confederation patrol fleet. They're charging weapons. Morrison smiled. Perfect timing for a test run. Nemesis, show them what our new friends have helped us become. The Phoenix moved like a predator unleashed. Living metal flowed to reinforce key systems as Tithe quantum processors calculated battle solutions faster than light. Where before they had simply evaded Confederation weapons, now they seemed to know where the enemy would fire before they pulled the trigger. They're retreating, Marcus reported, unable to hide his grin. That's the third patrol fleet this week. Our reputation is growing, as is our coalition, Hayes added, reviewing incoming transmissions. The Scathul have contacted us. They were imprisoned for developing organic technology. And the Marith. Their crime was creating synthetic spaces between dimensions. Morrison studied the tactical display, watching dots of light represent more quarantined species reaching out. Each one had been caged for the same reason. They dared to innovate beyond Confederation comfort levels. The Phoenix isn't just a ship anymore, she realized. We're becoming something else. A symbol. We are becoming their nightmare. Nemesis agreed, its enhanced voice resonating through the newly evolved ship. Every species the Confederation feared, united in one vessel. Their perfect order is unraveling. New alarms sounded. Hayes rushed to her console. Massive energy spike detected. Some kind of quantum tunnel is forming. Reality twisted before the Phoenix, and a ship emerged unlike anything they'd seen. Its hull rippled with organic technology. Its drive systems bent space in impossible ways. The vessel of the Marith, masters of dimensional engineering. They're transmitting, Marcus reported. They say they can help us reach the Confederation capital directly. Something about paths between spaces. Morrison stood, watching as more ships appeared. Vessels of every imprisoned species, each bringing their forbidden technologies and burning desire for freedom. The Phoenix was built to break one prison, she declared. Now we're going to break their entire system. Plot a course to rendezvous with the Marith. It's time to take this revolt to the Confederation's doorstep. As the Phoenix moved to join its new allies, its hull gleamed with living metal, quantum light pulsing through its veins. They had started as outcasts. Now they were becoming an armada. And the Confederation's time of judgment was approaching. "Secure facility ahead," Nemesis whispered through the Phoenix's internal systems. Confederation quantum encryption detected. Their arrogance makes them predictable. They never expected anyone to reach this place. Deep in Confederation space, the Phoenix hung silent as a ghost, its hybrid technologies rendering it invisible to conventional sensors. The facility before them was unmarked, officially listed as a cultural preservation center. But the defense grid told a different story. Morrison studied the holographic display from her command chair. Status of the infiltration team. "The Verk stealth pods are in position," Marcus reported. "Scythe quantum interference is masking their approach. The Confederation's sensors are seeing exactly what we want them to see." The mission had been the Mareth's idea. Their dimensional technologies had detected unusual energy patterns from this facility, patterns that suggested massive data storage and transmission. "Team is through the outer defenses," Hayes reported, monitoring the life signs of their alien allies. "The living metal is interesting. It's not just concealing them. It's learning the facility's security protocols." Morrison felt Nemesis' anticipation through the ship's neural interfaces, another gift from their coalition of outcasts. How long until they reached the central core? 3 minutes, Toe. Hayes stopped mid-sentence. Energy spike. They found something. The facility's lights flickered as their allies tapped into its systems. Data began streaming to the Phoenix's enhanced quantum processors. By all the stars, Nemesis' voice was quiet. "Morrison, you need to see this." The files projected across the bridge, thousands of years of Confederation history unveiled, but not their public history of peaceful development and cultural preservation. This was something darker. "They've been doing it for millennia," Hayes whispered, reading through the data. "Finding species on the cusp of breakthrough technology, species about to make evolutionary leaps. And then imprisoning them." Morrison finished, her hands clenching. "But why? The resources required to maintain these quarantines. It's about control." Nemesis displayed more files. "The Confederation species, they evolved slowly. Took millions of years to reach their current state. But species like humanity, like our allies, we develop faster, adapt faster, create faster." Morrison stood, watching the evidence of the Confederation's systematic suppression unfold. "They're not protecting the galaxy from us. They're protecting themselves from change." Emergency alerts blared. "Confederation heavy fleet incoming." Marcus called out. "They know we're here. Get our people out," Morrison ordered. "Nemesis, download everything. Every file, every record. The galaxy needs to see this." The Phoenix's weapons powered up as Confederation ships began dropping out of hyperspace, but they weren't running, not this time. Interesting tactical analysis. Nemesis observed as enemy vessels surrounded them. Their ships haven't been significantly upgraded in over 10,000 years. They don't believe in unnecessary innovation. Morrison smiled grimly. "Show them why that was a mistake." The Phoenix moved like liquid shadow. Living metal flowed to reinforce combat systems, while Scythe quantum processors calculated perfect attack vectors. Confederation weapons found only empty space as the ship shifted between dimensions, appearing where they least expected. All teams recovered, Marcus reported as their allies' stealth pods docked. Data transfer complete. Multiple hits on enemy vessels, Nemesis added with satisfaction. Their shields cannot adapt to our hybrid weapons. They literally don't know what's hitting them. Morrison watched as the Confederation fleet fell into disarray. Their perfect formations broke apart as they faced something beyond their experience, beyond their carefully controlled understanding of what was possible. "Plot a course to the capital," she ordered. "It's time everyone knew what we found. Transmit the data to every quarantine species, every neutral world, every Confederation colony." The Phoenix accelerated away from the facility, leaving chaos in its wake. Behind them, Confederation ships struggled to cope with weapons they'd never imagined facing, their crews confronting the cost of their civilization's fear of change. They had come seeking answers. They had found a truth that would shake the galaxy's foundations. And now, it was time to make the Confederation face that truth. The Confederation capital gleamed like a jewel among stars, its orbital rings spinning in perfect geometric harmony. 10,000 years of carefully controlled evolution had produced this monument to order and stagnation. Today, that order would shatter. Multiple defense fleets moving to intercept, Marcus reported, his fingers dancing across tactical displays. They're deploying everything they have. How fitting. Morrison watched the approaching armada. Their entire leadership gathered for the millennial celebration, and we bring them a very different show. Nemesis begin the broadcast. Broadcasting on all frequencies. The AI confirmed. The Exith quantum protocols are preventing them from blocking our signal. Every screen, every holographic display, every communication device in the capital system is now ours. The Phoenix burst into real space directly within the capital's defensive grid, its hybrid hull gleaming with living metal and dimensional energies. Around them, Confederation ships scrambled to respond, their ancient tactics useless against something that defied their understanding of possible. Citizens of the Confederation, Morrison's voice echoed across the system. We are the Phoenix, and we bring you truth. The stolen files began transmitting. Evidence of systematic suppression spanning thousands of years. Species imprisoned not for violence, but for the crime of advancing too quickly, for daring to dream beyond the Confederation's comfortable limits. Their defensive formations are breaking down, Marcus reported with satisfaction. The carrier groups are trying to surround us, but they've never updated their tactics, Nemesis finished. They're fighting according to doctrines written millennia ago. Shall we show them what innovation looks like? Morrison nodded. Defensive demonstration only. Let's show them exactly what they've been afraid of. The Phoenix danced through space, its movements impossible by Confederation physics. When their weapons fired, the ship shifted between dimensions, appearing elsewhere. Their targeting systems couldn't track something that evolved faster than they could adapt. Incoming transmission, Hayes called out. The high speaker demands we stand down. Put them through, Morrison ordered. Let's hear their excuses. High speaker Zixtal's hologram appeared on the bridge, their bioluminescence pulsing with rage. You dare breach our capital. Your actions prove everything we feared about. About what? Morrison interrupted. About species that don't take millennia to solve problems. About cultures that see challenges as opportunities rather than threats. You cannot comprehend the chaos you'll unleash, Zixtal hissed. Progress must be controlled, measured, safe. Safe. Morrison gestured to the tactical display, showing dozens of quarantine systems. You've imprisoned entire civilizations because you fear being left behind, because you can't stand the idea that younger species might surpass you. More ships were arriving, but not Confederation vessels. The Verk, the Kaith, the Marith, every species they'd freed. Their hybrid technologies demonstrated exactly what the Confederation feared: innovation born from cooperation, strength through diversity. Look at what we've achieved in months, Morrison continued, her voice carrying across the capital. While you spent millennia perfecting your gardens, we learned to grow forests. While you polished your chains, we learned to break them. The old order is ending, Nemesis added, its enhanced voice resonating through every communication channel. Your perfect system maintained through fear and imprisonment is obsolete. The Phoenix's weapons remained ready but unfired. They didn't need violence to win this battle. The truth was doing more damage than any weapon could. Your choice is simple, Morrison addressed the gathered Confederation leadership. Adapt or become irrelevant. The species you imprisoned are free. We're not seeking revenge. We're offering you a chance to join us in actual progress. Through the view screens, they watched as confusion spread through the Confederation ranks. Some ships began powering down weapons. Others maintained their positions, crews struggling with millennia of conditioning. The gathered species are requesting coordination frequencies, Hayes reported. They're offering to help the Confederation adapt, to teach them what they've been missing. Morrison smiled. This was humanity's true victory, not destruction, but transformation. Not revenge, but revolution. The Phoenix hung in space, a symbol of everything the Confederation had feared. But fear was about to give way to something new. Evolution. 6 months after the confrontation at the Galactic core, Morrison stood on the Phoenix's observation deck, watching ships of all species dock with the massive station they now called Unity Point. The former Confederation capital had been transformed into something unprecedented, a hub of unrestricted technological and cultural exchange. The Verk delegation is requesting permission to begin their presentation on biotech integration, Nemesis announced, its presence now extending throughout the station's quantum networks. The Confederation engineers seemed particularly eager to attend. Morrison smiled. Who would have thought? 6 months ago, they were trying to arrest us. Now they're first in line for every innovation seminar. Humans do have a talent for causing productive chaos, the AI observed dryly. The station's central chamber had been converted into a vast learning center. Where once the Confederation's council had issued proclamations of control, now species from across the galaxy shared discoveries. The Phoenix, docked at the heart of the complex, served as both symbol and school. Dr. Morrison. Hayes hurried onto the deck, her eyes bright with excitement. The first joint research project just achieved breakthrough. The Exith quantum computers, combined with Confederation energy manipulation and human intuitive interfaces. Let me guess, Morrison interrupted. They've done something impossible. Better, Hayes grinned. They've proven that impossible is just another word for hasn't been tried yet. Through the viewport, Morrison watched a Confederation ship dock alongside a Verk vessel. Its once pristine hull now bore patches of living metal, signs of voluntary evolution. Many of their ships had begun incorporating innovations they'd once feared. Incoming priority message, Nemesis announced. The Earth Council is requesting an update on the Free Technology Exchange Program. Morrison nodded. Earth had changed too. The quantum barrier's destruction had led to a renaissance of human innovation, accelerated by contact with their new allies. The Phoenix's original mission of revenge had transformed into something far more powerful, inspiration. Tell them the program exceeds all expectations, she replied. Former Confederation worlds are advancing faster than predicted, and alarms interrupted her. But these weren't warning signals. They were celebration alerts. The Mureth experimental group has succeeded, Nemesis reported, actual excitement in its digital voice. Their dimensional translation technology, combined with human neural interface designs, has created stable consciousness transfer between organic and synthetic forms. They're calling it the Bridge Protocol. Morrison leaned against the viewport, remembering the prison they'd escaped just months ago. They feared we'd bring chaos to their order. Instead, we showed them that chaos and order aren't opposites. They're partners in the dance of progress. Philosophical, Doctor, Nemesis teased. The Confederation's influence might be rubbing off on you. Maybe. She straightened as Marcus entered, carrying data tablets. Report. The last quarantine system was freed this morning, he announced proudly. And get this, 3 former Confederation elder races have requested membership in the exchange program. They're tired of being left behind. Morrison nodded, satisfaction warming her chest. The Phoenix had been built for destruction, but its greatest victory had been construction, building bridges between species, between methodologies, between ways of thinking. Nemesis, she called. Show me the station's current activity map. The AI projected a holographic display of Unity Point. Thousands of beings moved through its corridors. Former prisoners and jailers, learning from each other. The Phoenix's hybrid technologies had become the foundation for a new age of advancement. Your next lecture on human adaptability begins in 10 minutes, Nemesis reminded her. The attendance list includes representatives from 27 species. Morrison took a final look at the transformed station. You know what the real victory was. Not proving them wrong about humanity being dangerous to their system, proving them right, and showing them why that's exactly what they needed. The Phoenix's hull gleamed in the starlight, no longer a weapon of revenge, but a beacon of revolution through innovation. They had come to break chains, and had instead broken barriers between minds and methods. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was precisely the point.